PSD EdTech Coaches Podcast Season 3, Episode 1, our season premiere. We finally have a few minutes.
Welcome to the PSD EdTech Coaches Podcast, a podcast for educators by educators that love to equip teachers, ponder, and discuss current issues and climate in education.
With your hosts Melissa Shields, Jeri Sloan, and Dan Hopman. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our season premiere episode, Season 3, Episode 1. It's been far too long. I'm Dan Hopman with my new co-hosts, Melissa Shields and Jeri Sloan.
Hi, I'm Melissa Shields. I'm one of your EdTech coaches in the Palmdale School District. I am now also a Google for Education certified coach and a Google for Education certified trainer. I'm hoping to collaborate and learn with y'all soon. And hey, stay tuned till the end of the podcast so you can hear how to connect with us.
All right. Congratulations, Melissa. I got a Google certified trainer too, so now I feel official. I'm Jeri Sloan, and I just want to say you guys are amazing. You guys go 100 miles an hour and balance so many things at once. Give yourselves a round of applause.
I'm going to have a little bit of fun with the sound effects.
Oh, please. Oh, please. Let's break it up, man. Well, I'll tell you, we're fellow teachers, and we do get it, and we are here for you.
And we do get it. And, you know, we really are not that far removed from the classroom. And so I just want to thank the ladies for jumping in and co-hosting with me, especially at the start of Season 3. As many of you know, Steve has retired from Palmdale, but he hasn't from the podcast. So what he's going to do is he'll jump in from time to time whenever retirement allows him to jump in. But for the most part, though, it's going to be the three of us. So ladies, it has been a weird opening to the school year. What are some things that have surprised you or you have learned as we've opened up this new 21-22 school year?
You know, honestly, I don't know if surprise is the word for me. One thing I kind of had a fear about or a concern about was whether or not some of these really great strategies that teachers learned through virtual teaching and online teaching and learning, they learned a lot of new strategies, new practices, and I was kind of afraid that those really engaging activities that they learned would go away and they'd go back to, well, this is the way we're used to doing things when we're in the classroom. And happily, from some of the teachers I've talked to, it's not so. They are really excited about using their morning meetings or their SEL check-ins. They're feeling like it's helping them to strengthen or develop their classroom culture. I'm hearing teachers who are making lesson plans that are actually planning for collaboration, sometimes using the Google Docs, sometimes it's on paper and pencil, which is perfectly fine, and planning for creativity with their students and kind of giving students that voice and that choice. So I'm really excited to hear about those things.
I'm happy to see that teachers are looking forward and not trying to fall back on what they've been comfortable with before. I know I've seen a couple of classrooms where a lot of the strategies that we've talked about over the last couple of years with the pandemic, they're actually using it in their classroom. Jeri, what about you?
Well, I found that to be true, too. So many teachers have been using some of the strategies that they picked up and saying, hey, I want to make my lessons more engaging, more interactive. Mm-hmm. And they're just excited about that. I'm a little surprised sometimes, though, at how the expectations don't seem to have changed for teachers, and we find ourselves so busy and trying to find time to think through those things that we want to change. I'm like, if you don't have time to think about it and think about what your goals are for kids, then you end up, kind of on that merry-go-round or conveyor belt, and to really, think, how do I want to bring my passion, my excitement for teaching back? You need to have some time. You need to breathe a little, right? And think, how can I make changes? And how can I throw out the things that really aren't working for me? Yeah. And kind of get rid of those practices that just aren't really helping you or the students.
And actually being a little more discerning on what applies to the lesson, whether the kids, doesn't matter that they learn this topic, whatever that topic might be, or can I move forward and go for something that means a lot more? Yeah. Completely agree. For me, I think the surprise is that we still are getting surprised. Yeah. Just when you think that they can't go any further, it goes further. Whatever this new normal is, and I'm hoping that this is not the new normal. I'm hoping that we find some actual normalcy here. Hopefully, maybe at the turn of 2022, when January hits, maybe something new will come out of that we can start calling normal. But I just don't think we were prepared for what the different was going to look like, and I don't know that we could have been prepared. For me, I know one of the things that I don't think I was prepared to see or even do was having a lack of subs in our district. I never thought that we would be seeing that deficit, especially, and it's not just our district, it's worldwide. You see, teachers in Kansas who are having to triple up their classes, teachers in Alabama. I've seen teachers in England, in India. This is worldwide. It's not just us. But I also think that there was a lack of understanding of what the schooled students would come back as. And so I use that term schooled as the kids that when they left during pandemic had already been in a school for a certain amount of time. So probably those kinder kids right before pandemic and higher. I think that there was a little bit of a surprise at what they didn't know coming back face to face. And I think that was a surprise. Maybe not a giant surprise, but I think there was at least a little surprise, mainly even in behavior, not necessarily in academics, because they did have pretty much whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And now that they don't have that, because now they have to compete with 25, 30 plus more in the classroom to get that attention. So for me, my takeaway for the start of this year is kind of the same message that we've had over the last 20 months or so, and that's grace. This new normal, if that's what we still want to call it, if it's still new, it's come with bumps and bruises and life lessons. And I know that the teachers tend to be the first ones to give grace to others. They give grace to their kids usually. They try to give as much grace to their parents. But I also tend to think that they are the last ones to receive that grace. I know I'm preaching to the choir when I say that, because we've been on that side of things.
Yeah.
But I think we need to start seeing some global grace. We need to extend grace to our students, like I said, especially the ones that are seeing a classroom for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
That would be our second graders on down. Extend grace to our parents. They're making decisions for their kids they never thought they'd have to make. And they don't know whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. Even just listening to parents here at Innovations Academy, bringing their kids over from face-to-face school, they don't know. They're very weary of what that decision is and what kind of a reaction that's going to have or what kind of lasting effect it's going to have on their students in the long run. The classified staff, they're getting it from every direction. They're getting it from parents. They're getting it from admin. They're getting it from teachers, other staff members. We definitely need to thank them and give them a little bit of grace as well. But we also need to give some grace to our admin. Yeah. They're in a position they've never been in before. And I think that finding some understanding or trying to find some common understanding between all these groups. I know, Melissa, you're on the Promise Committee, and I know that's where a lot of those types of conversations happen. But I think that people, especially the teachers, might be looking at the admin of why are you doing this to me, instead of looking at it like they've got such a hard decision to make that this was the best decision they can make at the time. So,
Right.
I guarantee you that going through getting their admin certificates, pandemic was not one of the classes that they had.
Didn't prepare them.
Not even close.
I think they feel like their expectations are very high too, and that they may not feel a lot of forgiveness.
Absolutely. And I think that's very true. I think they feel like the bad guy a lot of times. A lot of times the teachers feel like I think everyone's feeling like the bad guy. We need to start making people feel like they're not the bad guy, that, we're all making decisions that are the best that we can do right now, and continue to hope for the best. I mean, that's I think is the big thing. But, we're almost to winter. And so the time of thanks and giving is upon us. It might be time to extend some grace to all and make it a time of thanksgiving and grace. And so now I'm going to ask for a little bit of grace for my extended answer, because I know it was a lot longer than everybody else's, but it does come from the heart. And I know that teachers are stressed. I know admin is stressed. I know classified is stressed. Hang in there. We feel you. I know we've been subbing in classes as well. I will say the three of us went over to Shadow Hills, and we were sub noon duties for a couple of lunches, and There are some things that I miss about the classroom. Being a new duty is not one of them. But it was a lot of fun to interact with the kids and to actually see kids smiling and having fun with their friends. But speaking of from the heart, one of the things that's in the heart of the three of us is helping to improve your pedagogy. There are almost 900 or maybe a little bit more teachers in Palmdale, and there are just three of us. And I'm not including the EL coaches. I'm not even including the induction coaches. I'm not including the special ed coaches. I'm trying to think of whichever coaches we're missing. I think that's all of us. Just the three of us when we start talking about ed tech. And so we want to personalize your professional development. So the three of us read an article by Lauren Barak, and it was targeting the idea of personalized professional development. And she says, targeted, personalized professional learning is critically important for any new curricular initiative successful across a school or district. And so, ladies, when we talk about personalized PD, how do you define personalized PD? I'll start with you, Jeri.
Well, for me, I know we've got younger teachers coming in. We've got teachers who are gangbusters for new ideas, maybe risk takers. They've got ideas from teaching school. And then we've got teachers who have spent years like refining some really fun and amazing lessons. And when we want to go and support that kind of teacher, either kind, they've got a different take on their ed tech philosophy or, what they know. So we really need to say, hey, you know a whole lot about this app and this. How can I help you use it better? Versus someone who say, hey, I've never touched this before, I've never seen it, but it sounds great, I would like to try it. So we really need to change our focus a little bit and make it more personal.
And I don't think that, when you're saying, you know how to do this really well, how can we make it better? By all means, we are not making this as you're not using it well.
Oh, yeah.
In our eyes, you're misusing whatever the tool is or whatever the activity that you might be working on. Yeah. So we're just saying, and I'm just paraphrasing what Jeri's saying is, how can we improve that? So Melissa, what about you? What do you think when we talk about personalized PD?
Well, it kind of makes me think of how this school year has started for us because teachers are kind of overwhelmed with all the different things that are going on in the classroom. And so when we do hear from teachers, it's kind of a help, I have this emergency, I can't get into this, I need to do this. My students aren't talking to each other because they're not used to being in person. And so they'll meet with us for 15, 20 minutes for a little bit of a strategy, a tip, a trick, something that they can kind of implement with fidelity that works for them. And sometimes they don't really know what works for them. And developing that relationship with our teachers, meeting with them online through Zoom, stopping in their classrooms. I know Jeri stopped by a lot of classrooms. And getting to know them and what their style is. So I'm probably talking all over the place right now, but I was thinking about what Jeri said about, and now it's left my brain. You said, holy crumb, what was it you said?
Collaborating, working together. She's worse than me. No, I don't know about that.
Wasn't that? But it was about the
something brand new versus something that you've used and maybe you want to...
improving upon something they're already doing. So if they say, I got my kids talking to each other, but they're really not collaborating that much, and then we can say, oh, well, what is one thing that you're doing that you like? Oh, they're doing this. Oh, well, we have a tool for that. You can do this. Or sometimes we see teachers struggle, like if we get to observe their classroom and we see what they're doing and we see what they're trying to do and getting to know them, we can say, oh, I see this thing you're doing. Do you know I can shave off like 5 minutes of your whatever time, intro time, cleanup time, organizational time. You could still do your activity, and we can also help you, up the engagement or up the participation or the quality of work that's coming from the students. Yes, they enjoy it, but how about if they not only enjoy the activity, but they go home and tell their parents about the activity or the learning, what they learned today. And having those little brief, it doesn't have to be an hour and a half Tech Tuesday. It could be a 15-minute Zoom with us. It could be us popping in the classroom. And I think but it's personalized for what that teacher needs. My goal is not to make more teachers who are just like how I was. My goal is to say, what do you want to do as a teacher, and how can we make that goal happen for you, or help you realize your goal.
And a lot of that happens when, as teachers, we reflect on how things went. We've all been there where we go to present whatever lesson it is, and we get done with that lesson and we go,
Oh, yeah.
holy moly, I don't even know what I just
I
taught.
spent all that time on it, and it didn't work.
But it takes some, what was it that went wrong? Was it the information wasn't right? Was it the tools that weren't working? Were the kids just not engaged? And I'm not going to say 9 times out of 10. I'd probably say 7 times out of 10 the kids just weren't engaged because our curriculum is not engaging enough. It really is on us as teachers to make sure that we're engaging our kids, asking those essential questions. We've talked, especially in our newsletter, about the 4 C's and making sure that we hit as many of those 4 C's in our lessons, because if you do all 4, you've got kids super engaged because they have no choice but to collaborate. They have no choice but to critically think, communicate, be creative. They can do those 4 things. They're engaged. And so I think I agree with both of you. I think it doesn't take an hour and a half Tech Tuesday. It doesn't take a 30-minute, we're going to use up all of your prep time. 10, 15, 20 minutes tops. We could probably give you a little bit of information to help move you to the next level. And a lot of those tools happen with good pedagogy with the online tools. And I know that's, I know teachers are going to say the first thing is sometimes I just don't have time to worry about the online tools. But let us teach you how to make that a little bit easier for yourself.
Yeah, 1, save time for the teacher. 2, bring it to another level. And 3, I think I just love to collaborate in planning because, as a teacher, you've got your PLC, which you have a lot to do in a PLC. But how about just another brain to help you say, oh, this is kind of a flat lesson and I really want to do something different with it. Why about somebody else to help you plan that? Think of something more interesting.
I was lucky, for most of my career, I had Steve where we could bounce things off of each other and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? Hey, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? You need to find that relationship, and it doesn't need to be on site. You mentioned PLCs. That's a great opportunity to do that. And during that PLC, as a group, you guys should be talking about good pedagogy and, why was your lesson better than mine? Let's see what you did. But also developing that PLN, that personal learning network, where you can actually take a look at people who are experts in the field and maybe even are even experts at certain techniques to make it to where you can improve your pedagogy. And what's great about those people is that they will answer the question. So when you go to do something and it doesn't work, you could go to a John Carippo or you could go to an Alice Keeler and say, hey, I tried, Iron Chef in my classroom and it just did not flow right.
Or you can go to a Michelle Lake.
Or a Michelle Lake here in our district, absolutely. She has become like a mini celebrity in her, with a lot of our PLN lately, which is really nice to see because I know she's worked hard. But being able to bounce ideas off of people like Michelle, I think it will just help you tremendously. And I know, again, time is always an issue. But in order to save time, sometimes we have to eat up time.
Yeah.
And so we really need to take that time and really ask those questions.
Working in a tiny little bubble anymore. It doesn't work with today's learning, our curriculum, our students. There's just too much, and there's too much for a teacher to have to do by themselves. That's why I say you could sit there and study this and figure it out, but why not just call me in 10 minutes and we'll just get into it, and then you can move on to the next cool thing.
Hey, maybe next time you use Google Drawings to do X, Y, Z, and you'll be able to get some creativity out of your kids real quickly. Or, hey, have you tried Jamboard? Jamboard, it automatically saves, and you won't have to worry about it loading and loading and loading. Just those little time savers. But even something like an Edge protocol, like I mentioned, Iron Chef, that will save you time in the long run because the protocol stays the same. It's the information you put into it that's different.
Oh my God, grammar lessons. Right? Don't do them. Do an Edu protocol. It's a grammar lesson, but it's a lot more fun.
I can pop out in 8 parts with a really cool picture on it, or math reps if you want to get kids to start working on number sense and really getting a good, especially the lower grades, a good grasp on those. Doing a math rep is a great way of doing that.
With less planning for the teacher.
Absolutely.
And then student buy-in, and then students start helping to plan those lessons too, and then they really have something invested, therefore they're extra engaged because it's their drawing, or it's their image that they selected, or it's their number they picked for the math rep or whatever. So,
That's very true. Yeah, and my favorite 8 parts that I've seen All the kids had different pictures, but they got to choose the picture. And so they were able to turn in their paragraph at the very end. And so they were all original. They had the picture. It was a beautiful thing to see, but they had practiced it. It was, don't think that it's an 8-part is going to magically solve things in your classroom. It's not the magic bullet, but you will see an increase in grammar being used correctly, which is really nice to see.
And an increase in creativity and
teacher's not as tired at the end of the day. That's what I'm always looking for.
Yeah, I mean, why do things? It used to drive me crazy when I would see colleagues of mine that would take home stuff like, they would take home their big box of work that they'd have to go home and correct.
The big box.
Yeah, and I know that a quarter of that is going to end up in the nice round receptacle sitting next to their desk because either it's going to be too old or it's not giving any type of immediate feedback. So it becomes unimportant, so why put it in the grade book? So it's something that, it'd be really nice if the only thing you had to take home was your iPad or your laptop, and you could go through and take a look at your EduProtocol, or you could take a look at any of your online tools, do your grading, put in the grading Infinite Campus, and you're done.
Or you have the students look at the writing for each other, so by the time you get to see it, and you're
it's
looking
already
at
been
it,
improved.
yeah, as time goes on, it's like, okay,
Yeah,
everyone gets an A.
Absolutely. Now, there are some that want to go even further than just the 10 minutes. And so putting them into something like a coaching cycle is really important. But let's explain exactly what a coaching cycle is and how that works with us.
Oh, now I'm going to see if I can remember all the different parts of the coaching cycle here. Oh, I wasn't prepared for that.
Well, you don't have to go into detail, but I mean, basically, what is it?
informally.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, when you're collaborating with a teacher and you're looking at what is their goal? Is there something they want to improve? They want to improve the students' fluency. They want to improve collaboration. So you kind of investigate the problem, and then you come up with a plan. You brainstorm. You come up with a basic plan and say, okay, well, here's how we're going to attack this, and then you try it out. You implement it. You actually do the lesson. You reflect upon it, get that feedback, and then you start the next iteration. So you go, oh, okay, like you mentioned before, this didn't work because the content was off, or because the technology wasn't the appropriate technology, or maybe the fact that you were using technology was not appropriate. Who knows? And then you go back and you take that, and to make it better, you just go through the cycle again. But the reflection piece is key to, like you mentioned before, about being able to see what it is that worked, what it is that didn't work, that feedback. And then it's a partnership too. I think that's the big thing about the coaching cycle is, and we've said this time and time again, that we are not evaluators.
Oh, no.
We are not there to assess anything you're doing. We're not there to say, here, try this, and this is how you can do it right. It's, looking at the goals and then reflecting on what is it the teacher really wants to do. And sometimes it takes a couple of trials to actually find out if that was actually your real goal that you really wanted. You don't really know it until you work it out.
Nice to have another set of eyes in your classroom. Somebody else to kind of see what's happening maybe with the students in the back while you're teaching.
non-judgmental.
Yeah. Reminds me of those lesson studies we used to do. And, just someone to kind of keep an eye and help, see what's happening, and then, brainstorm about what's working, what isn't. Because I'm teaching. As a teacher, I don't have time to notice what all the students are doing and everything that's going on. I'd love a second set of eyes and someone to help me debrief, because debriefing by myself is not that much fun.
But I was saying the quick, for me, the key word they used was we. It's not the teacher planning everything. We sit down, we help plan that lesson. It's not the teacher individual and they're reporting back to Melissa, Jeri, or Dan about how it went. We are there with you, and we're going through the cycle. We're asking those questions. Hey, what about this? What about that? We are pedagogy first, technology second when it comes to like-mindedness with the lessons. We don't want to shove the technology down. If it's needed, we'll recommend the technology. If it's something that we don't need the technology for, we won't use it.
Technically, technology could be a special piece of paper with special lines on it or something. I mean, a pencil's technology.
You know what? That really was technology back in its day, right? That was the newfangled thing.
Yeah.
Lined paper. And then it had holes on the side. That was really cool, too.
Yeah, it's
Well,
still considered technology.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of we mentioned the we, right? This is on our latest newsletter, was it this week or last week or whatever, where we talk about the difference between an ed tech coach and whether or not you put in a tech ticket in Incident IQ. And at the bottom we say, we help quote unquote break it, and then the Incident IQ, the tech, the TSLs, they help fix it. So I've sat down with teachers a couple of times and they go, "Can I do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know, let's see. Push a button, let's find out." And we learn together. And sometimes the teachers go, "Oh, I learned this." I'm like, "Cool, I learned something too." We're partners. We're partners in education, in helping ourselves grow, and then helping to provide something for our students and giving them a place to grow.
Yeah, we get to try out all these new strategies and educational technology techniques, with you in a real classroom. Boy, our brains are just growing and growing. This is great stuff.
I know a lot of teachers sit there and say, how come the students pick up on the technology so quickly? And it's a real simple answer. They're not afraid to break it. Mm-hmm. They're not afraid to click the button. Don't be afraid to click the button. What is the worst that happens?
Oh, we used to delete stuff. I know Dan's too young. I don't know if he remembers. Forever.
Oh, yeah.
Or the whole computer would just, what did we call it? Crash.
Yeah, but not by pressing a button.
I don't know. We used to think so.
I know it feels like it.
It feels like it.
But not by pressing a button. So, don't be afraid. I know fear is always teachers let themselves get in front of their own students' learning sometimes. Not all the time, but sometimes. The fear of that technology a lot of times will get in their way. And so our job is to help lower that effective filter on the technology and help you as teachers really develop and really look at the technology as a tool that is worth it in the classroom. I'll never forget sitting in a meeting, and a teacher came up to Steve and I and said, I was reading Hattie's effectiveness on student learning, and technology was just the lowest. Well, yes, if I put a student in front of technology and say, okay, learn, you're absolutely right, it's going to be at its lowest. But when you start using it as a tool, that effectiveness becomes a lot higher, and it's up in the top. I want to say it's in the top 10 in student effectiveness.
I think it's in the top 5.
Yeah, it might be
as
a tool. But the minute you just say it, like Zern, Zern is a great program. But if you leave kids on Zern all for their math period, and that's all they're going to get, they're going to learn exactly what Zern tells them, and it's going to be very surface. But if you use it as a tool to increase the direct instruction that you have, give them some repetitiveness in the learning that you're doing on those missions, it increases the effectiveness. So again, don't think you're alone. Use the technology as a tool, not as the thing, and let us come in and help you out. I know that's something that we would love to do.
Hey, one quick tech tip here, and we've talked about this before. Something that freed me, oh my gosh, just freed my mind, was there's on most apps nowadays, and definitely in Google, there's an undo button. You can look for it.
The
backwards arrow, or hey, if you can't find an undo button, try, was it Control Z? Or on a Mac, Command Z.
Yeah.
You need to get Melissa a T-shirt with Control Z on
Control Z. Yeah. I'm telling you.
We're gonna put all the Chromebook shortcuts on her shirt.
My life. Changed my life.
Just that one for her. I want to point out, when I work with teachers, the best thing is that they'd like to figure something out, but they know it's going to take them like half an hour, 45 minutes. It used to take me that long. But if we do it together, we could get that whole thing accomplished in 10 minutes, because I'm just going to help you speed up that strategy development with tech.
The way I look at it is kind of like riding a bike. When we learned how to ride a bike, we didn't just jump on the bike and fall and fall and fall. We started off with our mom or our dad or whoever was teaching us, and they were there with us. They would hold on to the bike until we were ready to let go, until we were ready to fly. And that's kind of what we do. We sit there, we are with you. We will run by you. We will help you move as straight as possible. And when we start seeing you fall, we'll say, hey, why don't we try doing this instead, and help you right yourself until you get to a point where you can actually see, hey, you know what, maybe this isn't going where I want it to go. I need to right myself. And so that's kind of the way I've always looked at it, sort of like riding a bike. And to me, that's just a really good metaphor, for everything that we do.
Well, I'm going to add to that analogy a little bit, Dan, in that, we assume that mom or dad knows how to ride the bike.
This is true.
And there are times when our teachers take us in an unknown territory, and we're like, okay, let's see how this is going to work. I'm here with you, and I can watch that wobble, but I'm not sure where we're going with this yet. It's going to be fun.
And, well, I can tell you that going into TK classes and all the little kids with those snotty-nosed kids and needing help with their shoelaces and zipping up their pants from the bathroom and all that stuff, I can tell you from my point of view that it's a learning process every time I walk inside those classrooms. So I completely understand what you're saying. But, like I said, we are with you. This is our job. Our job is to help walk alongside you and make sure that you're improving yourself. If we become stagnant and stop learning, then, we can't expect that out of our students. We got to expect that out of ourselves as well.
Exactly.
So, ladies, episode 1 in the books.
Yahoo!
Episode 1.
Because we finally had a minute.
And
I know
a
we finally had a
Christmas
minute.
idea for Melissa that
Haven't
controls
changed
these
offices
shirts.
16
That's right.
times.
Yeah.
So, all that being said, how do you get a hold of us? There are so many different ways to get a hold of us.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to go through all of our social media handles because that would take another 5 minutes. But you get a newsletter from us every week. There are links on there to email us. Our calendars are attached there. So that is one way to get a hold of us. What is another way to get a hold of us?
Well, through our email.
Bottom of our email, we have our appointment calendar. And just honestly, for me, just email me. We could start that conversation.
Absolutely. We'll find time for you. And so, like I said, our job is to help you out. And if we're not getting the phone calls, if we're not getting the emails, we try to find other things to do. And a lot of times it's learning new things. And so we would love to be able to take those new things and impart them on you guys. So absolutely. So on that note, ladies, in the books, I can't wait for the next episode. We'll have to do that soon.
And the audio files.
Have a great 4-day weekend, and we'll see you guys next time.